Hello, Durud and Shalom. Guys, we are at the really close to the moment where something massive might be happening in southern Iran. We don't know. There's a lot of signs that shows that President Trump might be getting ready to do something big. We're talking about infrastructure being destroyed in Iran. We're talking about massive bombardment in southern Iran, preparing for maybe a ground invasion. We're talking about maybe taking over Kharg Island. Things are escalating really fast. And we need to go into our group discussion over here, get to our group call in the group, and see what the other people have to say about this. Let me just make sure. How's my audio? How's everything? I don't like this shirt. I need to change it. This is not this is not comfortable. I regret my decision wearing this today. Anyways, how's my audio? Let's actually get into our group call.
What did I step into? Oh, never mind. Hey, Armin.
Hello, hello, hi. How's everyone doing?
We're doing good. How are you?
Good, good. Hey, we wanted. I really am interested in today to see what you guys have to say about the recent quotes from President Trump regarding, the escalation, Kharg Island, ground invasion, maybe taking the infrastructure. Danny, are you modding?
Yes, but maybe tell us about those quotes first before we respond to them.
Okay, yes, I will do that. And guy, oh, hey, Susie's here. Fantastic. Miss Susie, having Susie here. Okay, let me actually read to you the Tuesdays. Okay, so so that's the old one. The more recent ones. Here, let's look at the more recent ones. Okay, there we go. So obviously you guys already heard about President Trump saying that we're going to hit them very hard tonight. Well, we already see that happening, so that's nothing new. He said we're going to hit them hard tomorrow night, which was tonight, and he did follow through. So one thing that we were waiting for to see if it's going to be anything above north, not just the south or anywhere else in Iran. We did see one target being hit midsection in Iran, but most of it was still in the south. It was a lot more aggressive. President Trump has been signaling that he is interested in taking Kharg Island. What's his name? Um, so on Fox News, he talked about. He was asked regarding his comments on in the 1980s about taking Kharg Island, and he reposted it on True Social. He basically reposted the quotes from 1980s, and Fox News they talked about it, and he didn't mention. They asked him if he's going to do it again. He's gonna like, well, it's not. I wouldn't be talking about it to you. Like it wouldn't be wise for me to share that information. But he didn't deny it. He also showed like he started talking about Kharg Island, showing that there's a lot of interest. Um, in taking the island, but he said he's not going to share more. Here's another quote from him in that interview that just happened like a couple of hours ago. He said, "Next week it gets really bad for them because next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. We're going to knock out all their power plants. We're going to knock out all their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate." So this last part to me suggests that he's not going to do any of that because the Islamic Republic always gets on the negotiation table and talk. And I think that President Trump should have said something that was more demanding than getting on the table and negotiating. Um, so that is not a very strong statement. It started very strong and then it ended up being very weak at the end of it. We're going to knock out all their bridges unless they get to the table and negotiate. A very strong statement turned into a very weak statement by saying that. I think if President Trump is trying to change behavior by these types of statements don't have the influence that they had before, because President Trump said already that he's going to destroy power plants and bridges, and he didn't do it because they got on the negotiating table. So if he doesn't do anything at this big this time, like by next week, then the message to the Islamic Republic is that, oh, okay, every time this guy threatens us, we just have to go back to the negotiating table and he's just going to stop. So, and if a lot of the enemies of United States are going to take United States less seriously, I mean, I understand, you're going to see people are going to say it's a 5D chess move. He's just messing with them. And also, I did a Steelman on this. A lot of people are saying Trump always trick us out. I kind of defended Trump by saying, like, well, I mean, Khamenei is dead, so I don't think he always trick us out. I mean, Operation Midnight Hammer was a thing, so I don't think he always trick us out. But it is also true that recent threats not turning into action on the ground is signaling to the Islamic Republic that President Trump is bluffing. And it might be a way to surprise them. So here's another 5D chess move, steelmanning of President Trump. It might be that because maybe they want the Islamic Republic to think that they're bluffing so that they surprise them. Here's another suggestion. But if he doesn't do anything significant by next week, then President Trump's words are not going to be taken as seriously, because this is too many times did he say he's going to do something and he didn't do it. I also understand that people are going to say that this is the art of the deal. He always says something big and then he settles for something lower. But again, this is if he keeps doing that and people can see that he's doing that, well, it's not going to have an effect anymore. And right now, because President Trump has made many threats and he hasn't followed through, the winning narrative within the Islamic Republic is that, well, apparently they can't do the things that they say they're going to do, or else they would have done something. So hopefully we're going to see something meaningful by next week, because he also provided a time. Like, he didn't say, like, we're going to do something. He said next week. And honestly, I hope just the Islamic Republic coming back to the negotiating table is not going to be enough for President Trump. Like, if President Trump then posts like, oh, I'm not going to do anything because they're back at the table and they're going to give us everything. President Trump, I hope he doesn't do that, because President Trump himself has admitted now many times that these people lie, and whatever they say, you can't take them seriously. You cannot just trust what they say. Like, what is the point? Like, if President Trump says like, oh, they're ready to make a deal, so I'm not going to spare them. In the same interview, President Trump has mentioned that they lie all the time. Like, nothing that these people say is believable. So them coming out and saying, oh, sorry for attacking the ships, let's make a deal. If that's enough for you to hold back, then I don't know. Like, then this is really bad, because the Islamic Republic could just attack ships, and then as soon as the major consequences are going to come, they'll learn like, oh, we just have to go tell President Trump that we could negotiate, and he will stop attack. President Trump had an ultimatum. He said, like, don't attack anymore, like, open the Strait of Hormuz, or there are going to be major consequences. And then the Islamic Republic responded by, okay, we're going to close the Strait of Hormuz completely. That was their official response. That needs major response. That there was a clear ultimatum by the President Trump, and there was a clear violation of that ultimatum. Coming back to the negotiating table and talking is not enough for that punishment not to take place. And honestly, like, I appreciate that the blockade is back. I also see that the southern Iran is IRGC targets are being attacked, like, really at a much higher level compared to before, and it's constant, like, it's not stopping, which is good. But still, this is not at all at the level that you would want if there's a clear ultimatum by the President of the United States of America, and that red line being crossed. What we're seeing right now is not at all enough for such a clear violation. And especially now that we have a timeline next week, if we don't see something significant being done by the Americans by next week, like something really significant, then this is going to give a huge propaganda win for the Islamic Republic, which does matter. Internally, this is going to give the regime the ability to advertise to their followers that, look, we must be winning. Why would this, what they say, yellow dog, keep telling us that he's going to do something, and every time he doesn't do it, obviously he can't, or else he would have done it. So this would be a huge narrative win for the Islamic Republic if we don't see something significant by next week. So I want to see your predictions. What do you guys think is going to happen by next week? what is the 5D chess plan here that will explain all of this? Like, I don't know, 5D, 50D, I don't know. Or is this, are you disappointed or not disappointed? Do you think there's a larger plan here at play that we need to understand? And what do you want to see by next week? So let's go through. Let me stop talking so we could hear what you guys have to say.
Monkey is first to respond. Monkey, no audio. You're muted. You didn't unmute.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. You guys want to know what is the 64D Jenga move, right? So if you want to take Karg Island, you have to take a lot of things first. There is a lot of targets you absolutely have to take before you take Karg Island. You have to clear a lot of launchers. You have to do so much, which is why I'm going to ask Jeff to talk about that later if he can. I'm volunteering him not. Do you accept it? Do you accept this? Okay. He's saying okay. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the political side. On the political side, that's not fair. That's a beautiful dog, Danny. On the political side, I don't think the American public has the taste for this continuing. Every time he goes back to the negotiating table, the center right hates it. Like the left, they hate Trump. The woke right, they hate Israel, right? So you're not talking to those people. You're not going to convince those people, right? Some of them, the ones that have been strung along by these Pied Pipers might listen, but they're not going to listen. Same thing for the far left. They're not going to listen. So the people who might vote for you are sick of this because they're looking at it from a more logical standpoint. And if these people say they're going to make a deal and they never make a deal, logically, why the hell are we talking to them? Those people get enraged every time we get baited into a fake deal. And every time they say they're going to make a deal and they don't make it public. I've made my stance clear. The administration is to say, until you say on your TV that I can go get that uranium, until you say on your state TV, you show your face and you say that you're never going to have a nuclear weapon, there's no deal. Because you come over here, you zipper dive me when we're on the phone, but then you go outside to your TV and say, I'm the strong man. I didn't zipper dive him at all. I wasn't head first in that zipper. No. I was super strong over the phone, and I don't know what he's talking about. What's that on my face for? Don't worry about that. So that's the kind of thing that I don't like. He's got to be like, you have to tell your people in public, because I'm sick of you over here. When we're over here in private, you're zipper diving me, but when you're in the public, I'm the evil guy, and you showed me my place. So that's my stance on that.
All right, thank you, Monkey. Let's go next to Noah.
So the regime always comes to the negotiating table. I mean, but the problem is, it's not new, but the problem is that when there's an agreement, they never hold their end of the agreement. And there's really no point in negotiating with these people because they're savages at this point. Obviously, President Trump said that he was going to bomb the power plants and bridges next week. I agree with you, Armin. I don't think it's going to happen. But at the same time, if it does happen and it brings the end of the regime, then so be it. I mean, the Iranian people are sick of the regime. So as for next week, as for like prediction, I personally don't see an invasion next week unless the US is ready. And when they are ready, I think they will take most of the Persian Gulf islands, including Karg.
All right, thank you, Noah. Next on the list, I have Shauna.
Oh, I want to look at this from a different angle. I can't look at it from a military angle because I don't have that training. But what's happening next week that we are not talking about is the U.S. Well, I always get the. Let me flip back to my notes because I always get this mixed up. The USMCA, I think it's the trade agreement with American trade agreement between the US, Canada, and Mexico. That is being renegotiated or officially ended and renegotiated next week. And the reason why it was halted on July 1st is because both Canada and Mexico have still been supplying and aiding Chinese companies through backdoor loopholes. Now, I have no idea what the direct impact of this could be, but I do want to put that out there, that is something that's very important that is happening next week. So that's just, like I said, I have no idea if there's a direct contact, but it is a problem that we're running into in our war with China. They are basically using their shell companies to just go into our friendly shores and install things, and it's been it's one of the challenges that we're dealing with. So even though we're ratcheting up on many things and we're doing a great job, that whole deal specifically with Canada and Mexico, it could be a factor. So I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility.
Next, R.R. Halda.
Hi, Al. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just going to report I watched Tusi just a little bit ago, and right towards the end, he reported that Ghalibaf did contact the U.S. and asked to come to the table again, as we expected. And that's it. That's all I have to report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey.
Yeah, so what this very much looks like, again, or aligns with, is shaping operations, right? So if you take a look at what are the key things that have been done. So President Trump's administration just recently notified Congress of a new War Powers Act. We are targeting and degrading enemy capabilities all throughout the strait. What are they targeting? They're degrading anti-shipping and coastal threats, key radar sites, fortified positions, anti-aircraft stuff, mosquito fleet stuff. I mean, we're just taking out all the things that they could use to threaten stuff. So as far as, and you had these repeated waves doing this in the past couple of ways, including last night. So we've been hitting greater, I always fuck this up. Tenbub, how do you say it? Tunb, how do you say that in Persian?
Oh, Tombe Kuchik, Tombe Buzurg.
Oh my God, just give me the first one. Right? Jesus. Okay. Tunbud? Okay.
Tom.
Bandar Abbas, Abu Musa. I mean, we're taking out all these different targets. Wow. Note to self, never ask Carbon that again. All right, so we're enforcing.
Yeah, make it easy. Little Tom, Big Tom.
Big Tom. So that's all I need. Greater Tom. Thanks. I didn't know. Thank you. So greater and little Tom islands. We're hitting all the different islands. We're enforcing the blockade. We're engaging in attrition with vis-a-vis the mass strikes, and we're engaging intelligence and dynamic intelligence, which means if they're moving stuff, we're going to be following it and killing you. The psychological and economic pressure is going up. All of this points to a prep for escalation. As far as like mass ground invasion, I don't see that happening. Like inside Iran, they definitely will. I definitely see it prepping, hopefully, for, massive air campaign to kill the mullah regime and the repressive elements inside the regime. And that's actually catching traction both in the public and within the administration. Meaning, we're just going to kill all the rest of these assholes and give people a good shot at taking back, and liberating their country. That's where it kind of sees what I like to see. I would very much like to see them implement the expanded 5x5 campaign and completely obliterate the fucking mullah regime remnants till there's nothing left, including their leadership down to the lieutenant level, all their conventional military, every radar, every HQ for the IRGC and besiege, and absolutely obliterate the rest of the regime and its repressive elements so that Iranians are no longer punished, and this is brought to a rapid close. As far as taking Karg Island, some of the things that you would need to do, you're probably looking at, let me take a look. Give me 1 second because I don't have to look up Hormuz's hammer, right? So Hormuz, where's Karg? This is a little bit a while ago before we, engaged all this. Where's Karg Island in my Hormuz? Give me come back to me. Give me a minute. Let me find it. And I'll tell you kind of roughly the kind of number of targets pre-Operation Epic Fury that would be envisioned to prep Karg Island itself to be taken, so that U.S. Marine Expeditionary Forces could then liberate Karg Island.
Okay, I believe that's all the twos we have on this topic. So we can move on to the S word if we have any. Super.
Yes, we have super chats. So we have Fleshy Interloper with the super chat saying Durud and Shalom. Shalom and Durud, Fleshy Interloper. And then Fleshy Interloper saying, oh no, I'm 3 months older. Yeah, this is in relation to being a member for 3 months. Thank you for that. And then Carolyn is saying, me too. There we go. Thank you guys for being members for 3 months. And then we have Jew Hater here. Oh, guys, Jew Hater is back saying, I can't wait for next week. Looking forward to power plants, bridges, and civilian infrastructure being taken out. Well, you go and cry over your supreme leader being taken out. I'm pretty sure you care more about that than all the bridges and infrastructure and civilian life, for that matter, in Iran, Jew Hater. I know you're crying about that still, and you're trying to hide your anger and your anxiety and your hate by coming here and trying to see if you could make us feel just a small fraction of all of the despair that you're feeling right now with these super chats. But all you're doing is you're supporting Zionism. So thank you for that. And then we get another
Harvey, you
super chat.
can't blame Jew Hater. He's spending his mom's hard-earned money that's currently underneath my desk. She said dinner's in the oven, brother.
Okay, he's another attempt by Jew Hater trying to be funny. I don't get his joke, and I don't try to understand this because I think it's Jew Hater. Every time you try to be funny, it actually ends up backfiring. So you're funniest when you're not trying, because it's funny how pathetic you are. And then we have another. Okay, so Fun Son with 5 membership gifts. Thank you so much, Fun Son, with membership gifts to the people in the chat. So 5 people are now members because of Fun Son. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so what's the next topic?
Next topic is about Pickaxe Mountain by Cappy.
Oh, okay. So it's a twofold question. So to start, obviously we already know that there's a nuclear site inside Pickaxe Mountain. My question is how long did us Americans know that it was there? And what is the most likely military action to take place to destroy the nuclear site within Pickaxe Mountain, considering that a bunker buster won't work because it's too deep in the mountain?
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, the other areas where the Islamic Republic is enriching uranium is like 60 meters underground, and this one is 90 meters. That's why the bunker busters are not going to be able to penetrate that level. My also understanding is that the only 2 ways, again, this might be wrong, this is based on other military experts analysis, is that there's only 2 ways to get the enriched uranium, the enrichment uranium facilities down there to destroy them, is either with a tactical nuke or with a ground invasion. They're saying that these are the only, or actually the third one is regime change, right? And basically talking to that is the best way. So for people who might not know, the Islamic Republic, this is their 4th main enrichment uranium location that we know of. There might be other places that we don't know of. So the other 3, which were destroyable with American bunker busters, were Natanz, Fordow, and the uranium enrichment facility in Isfahan. So Isfahan, Natanz, and Fordow. So this is Pickaxe Mountain. In Persian, this is Kuh Kolang. It's called Kukoleng, and this one is really, really deep and inaccessible to bunkers. I don't know when. I think the Americans knew about this for a while. I think. Let me see. The United States and Western intelligence have closely tracked the development of Iran's deeply buried pickaxe mountain facilities since its initial excavation in the late 2020. So, okay, so this has been 6 years. Over the last 6 years, continuous satellite surveillance has monitored the site's progress, accumulating in the current July 2026 military standoff. Okay, so they knew, and they knew from the beginning, which is basically for the past 6 years. So yeah, basically these are the three. What was? Did I answer your question? Like, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you answered my question, but now you created a third question. Hence why I put a 2 in the chat.
Okay, what's your second question? Follow-up question?
The follow-up question regarding, okay, so the first question is how long the Americans knew, what is the most likely military action to take place to destroy the nuclear site, and now it's like, why did they hide that from the American people?
I don't think
like, or not. I don't think they hid it, but they didn't explain it. They didn't tell us about it. And whenever we would hear about them talking about the MOU, they would explain that they would that Trump got all of the nuclear sites. Well, clearly not. If never got Pickaxe Mountain. Sorry.
That's a good question, because Trump said multiple times that all of their enrichment of uranium facilities were destroyed, but they, U.S. intelligence knew about Pickaxe Mountain, and in Operation Midnight Hammer in June 2025, they didn't target this. So why didn't President Trump and Washington not tell the American people that this was still there? And in fact, this one was the most important one, because this one is the hardest one to destroy. President Trump did multiple times mention that they can't enrich uranium anymore, but they knew about Pickaxe Mountain and they didn't communicate that. That's a very good question, and I don't have the answer to that. Let me see. We could get to the other people here that put a 2 in the chat. We'll see what they have to say about this.
Okay, Jeffrey, you go first.
So, a quick comparison between Pickaxe Mountain and Fort Al. So Fort Al, as you know, it was a mountain near Guam, about 80, 90 meters under the ground, right? 260 to 300 feet. The mountain rock, it was the rock shield, the characteristics of the rock shield, forgive me, a little adjective, was mountain rock, hardened, but fewer confirmed entrances to the facility too. Smaller, more contained known enrichment halls. The purpose was uranium enrichment. It was struck and damaged in 2005. Fortified, but more known and vulnerable to past strikes just because we built up the stuff. Our intel on it. Pickaxe Mountain. So Zaragoza Mountains near Natanz, deeper, not way deeper, still deeper. It's about 260 to 330 feet, 80 to 100 meters. It's under rock. The rock shield characteristics is solid granite, so it's much harder to destroy. The size and footprint of it, vis-a-vis things I'm not going to talk about how we know. Larger underground halls, significant floor space. It's got major spoil piles from excavation. That's because they've been trying to continuously fortify and expand it. Centrifuge assembly and production and covert enrichment. So it's active construction and expansion since the post-2025 strikes, and it's heavily fortified. So with regards to taking it out, there's a couple of the options are the same as it was with Fort Al, Isfahan, and Natanz broadly prior to Operation Midnight Hammer. You can dig with bombs, so you can do multiple strikes one after the other. There comes a time though where you have even digging with bombs becomes self-defeating because the stuff you're blowing out falls back into the crater, kind of like rubble, and you're just pounding rubble. So you start to lose some efficacy in how far down you can dig per bomb. That being said, yeah, it still could be, you still could do function kill. There's a couple of ways you do it, what we looked at. So you had MOPS, which are just gravity the gravity guided massive ordnance penetrator. You had rocket assisted MOPS, which means you put rockets on the back so the bomb hits harder, and that means you have more kinetic energy and ostensibly it goes deeper. You have robust nuclear earth penetrators, which is essentially a MOP, except for it has a veritable yield nuclear warhead inside. At least that's what was envisioned for under former President George W. Bush, and was researched by former Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. And tragically, left-wing douchebags killed the program, although Donald restarted it. I think the designation is B61-11. I don't know, the nominal variable yields between, correctly, 300 tons and 170 kilotons. So you can dial up what kind of yield you want. The idea is that you have a smaller package for an amount of explosives, which means you can allocate more of the bomb casing or bomb weight to its casing, meaning it can punch harder and deliver more bang for a given amount of buck. You have orbital bombardment, which we looked at, which is actually reaching out to Elon Musk and his heady lift rockets. Takes about 2 weeks. You can place tunks and rods in orbit, drop them down. You could do sub-T, which is really, really dangerous. That was like a big issue if you want to destroy. This is if you want to destroy and or function kill. So destroying it, hard kill, it means you dig your way down to the facility and then destroy all the stuff inside and it's gone. Function kill is a lot of, partly what we did, which is collapse all the entrances, cause the mountainside to shake and have all this, we did some analysis how the shockwave goes through the rock, collapse stuff. So they got to dig it out. Ultimately, though, the simple fact is, given the pseudo-theologic nature that underwrites the motive for the Mullah regime and subsequent inelasticity or very low elasticity in pursuing stuff like WMD capability, whether it's turnkey systems, produce it themselves, different WMD profile with advanced bioweaponry, and pick a shitty. Ultimately, if you want to make sure the regime doesn't get a WMD capability, they have to fucking die. Period. You need regime change inside Iran. And that has to be, I would contend, the optimal way of doing that would be a mass air campaign by us and our Gulf state and Israeli allies, targeting all of the different target sets envisioned in 5x5, which is very much all of their C4ISR, all the leadership down to, decapitating them all the way down to the lieutenant level and destroying all their conventional military, as well as besiege and our IRGC headquarters down to the the neighborhood HQs. And that would absolutely collapse the regime's ability. Well, the regime would be dead. And the regime, whatever execution element, would be very isolated and not be able to coordinate all of their repressive activities, which would give the anti-Mullah regime and or freedom fighters inside Iran a good chance at taking back their country. If they did what I said, the 3 lines of effort I sent up the chain recently, which is 5x5, naming His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi as the head of the official government in exile vis-a-vis the transitionary government, and or going after all of their oil, Dark Sea fleet, reasonably high degree of probability you see a regime collapse in 3 to 8 weeks. The shortest might be 2 to 4, although you probably won't see that. That's if they do all the lines of effort I outlined. That's what I would like to see. Because, I'm tired of dealing with these friggly goat fuckers.
Yes, I'm sure we all are. Okay, Monkey is next.
Yes, I just wanted to say that, of course, you just close the entrance so no one can get in or out. That's what they're going to do. They're probably going to do that real soon. I would have done it yesterday or the day before yesterday. I think they're gonna hit them with mops. Mops are massive ordnance penetrators. I think they're gonna hit, all along that tunnel the way down. So getting in and out is gonna be very hard. Whoever is down there probably has food to last a long time and water. They're gonna be stuck down there a long time. That's my prediction. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter how many centrifuges you have down there, unless you plan to blast your way out with a nuke. And yeah, like it would be you don't want to try to penetrate all the way down, because you don't know, like, this thing could be 200 meters down, it could be 300 meters down. You don't know what the inclination is down, right? So just hitting it with mops over and over, yes, that could work, but I don't know how far down it is. Like, I'm just talking open source, we don't know. If some people got some knowledge, that's fine. But I'm just going to look at the open source stuff, just for the people that are not going to believe me. And I'll say, okay, let's go with the open source. Open source puts an estimate of between 100, which you could get with 2 bombs, right? Because they're 60 and 60, 120, bam, you're there. But they could be 200, they could be 300 down. That's a possibility. If they're that far down, what you do is you close the door. That's what you do. You close the door, and that's how you deal with it. I think that's the best way to deal with it. I don't know why it hasn't been done yet, and I want it done yesterday.
All right, thank you, Monkey. Let's go to Armin next.
Okay, so when it comes to closing the entrances, that is not going to be that helpful. That is most helpful for the missile cities during military operations, because closing the entrances is something that you could easily undo. Closing entrances is mostly helpful for missile cities during military operations, so that at least during the military operations, the Islamic Republic cannot launch missiles at Israel and other allied countries. So for the enrichment uranium facilities, closing the entrances is, unless you're going to be there forever and close it every time, that is something that could be undone very easily. It was also undone very easily with the missile cities where the entrances were closed. The utility of closing the entrances is that at least while you're doing the military operations, the missile cities are not usable. When it comes to, with regards to the original question, I went and did some digging because I didn't know the answer. Yeah, and guys, the enrichment uranium facilities is not something you are using during a war. This is something that you're using for preparations of a final war, which is like a missile. So closing the entrances would not make any sense, because they're not even being used to wage war. Like, for example, during Operation Epic Fury or anything. That's not what they're not even for. That they're basically for creating enrichment uranium for for one day eventually for them to have a nuclear weapon. That's their point, right? So here's let's do 2 questions, right? Why wasn't Pickaxe Mountain even targeted in June 2025? And why did the Trump administration didn't talk about this also being there, and made it seem like by taking out those 3 sites, the Islamic Republic lost all of its enrichment uranium capability, right? So for why it wasn't targeted, this is what the experts are saying. If they're wrong, just don't hold it against me. Go talk to them. But one point that they're saying is that in June 2025, Pickaxe Mountain was just an empty shell of tunnels. It did not contain any active centrifuges or active stockpiles of uranium back then. So striking an empty mountain would have been a waste of highly classified GBU 57s, massive ordnance penetrators like MOP, bunker busters. So that would be a huge waste. Then also another reason is Fordo was buried 80 meters deep and was heavily damaged. So that's Fordo. Pickaxe Mountain is buried between 100 to 600 meters under solid granite. So that's wow. I thought it was like only 90. So there's a different estimates for how deep this is. So Fordo was 80. Pickaxe Mountain, they're saying between 100 to 600 meters. 600 meters. Okay, so no bunker. So military planners feared that striking it in 2025 might fail, exposing the physical limits of America's best conventional bunker buster bombs to the world. Okay, that's interesting. And so again, take this all with a grain of salt. This is what the analysts or military experts are suggesting. So here's another thing. Why did the Trump administration didn't talk about this? Again, I'm not saying this, or this is other people. I'm just telling you, I'm reporting what other people's opinions are. Okay. Some people are saying that they wanted, it's because of from a PR perspective, they wanted to preserve the total victory narrative. So if they came out and said that the Islamic Republic had a brand new, deeper, and potentially indestructible facility waiting to be operational, and they would have instantly deflated the potential victory of the narrative of the operational Midnight Hammer. So that's might be one reason why they didn't talk about it. To the American public, the message was like pretty simple back then. The threat is gone. We did it. Everything 100% successful. These people can't enrich uranium ever again. So, but acknowledging Pickaxe Mountain would mean that admitting the job was only basically half done, and they didn't want to do that. And also, another reason people are saying is to protect the ceasefire. So, especially after the with the MOU and everything, to get the Islamic Republic to come sign the MOU to basically to de-escalate by not publicly demanding the immediate dismantling of Pickaxe Mountain. Again, I'm not saying this is the case. I'm just saying what other people are saying, because this is like a very uncharitable analysis of why they didn't do that, right? So then they basically, by not demanding that, because if they put that on the table, it would be very hard to get to the negotiating table, right? So basically, they're saying that the United States was trying to allow the Islamic Republic with a face-saving exit by not talking about that. But now they are talking about it, right? So bringing Pickaxe Mountain into the public eye would have collapsed the negotiations before they were even started. These are the explanations other people are giving, which are very uncharitable, but I don't see I didn't see anybody answer a more charitable explanation. I would like to see what other people think. What is a more charitable explanation for why the White House didn't come to the American public and mention that, yeah, guys, we didn't actually destroy their enrichment ability. Even if the Midnight Hammer operation was completely successful, they have this whole new other place where they are enriching uranium that could only be destroyed if we either do regime change or ground operations or use tactical nukes. So they didn't communicate that with the American public. What is the explanation for that? Because the explanations I'm seeing here so far is very uncharitable. Do you agree with them? And if you disagree with them, what is your alternative potential? What is a potential explanation if you have any? So who's next?
Monkey, go ahead.
Yeah, why didn't they talk about it? I don't know. They didn't feel like it. I don't have an explanation for that. There's nothing shareable about it. What I would say is you can't, like, when you're launching a nuke into the ground, the fallout is very different. Like that's very, I wouldn't do that. That's probably a bad idea. Remember how we talked about these people that are just sitting in AA doing useless things and they're just getting bombed and you want to demoralize them? I would close that door every day, bomb every truck that comes near it. I don't care if you're carrying cement. This is a psychological operation. I want to make it so anyone that comes near any of those facilities in a truck dies, that you don't even dare put trucks in there, right? Because what you're going to do, you're going to hit these trucks with, you don't need big missiles to close that door. Number one, you probably need, a missile that you could put in an F-15 and you could close that door. After that, you don't need really big missiles to hit every truck that's going up there, to kill every worker that even tries. That's a much cheaper operation, right? So can you do it constantly? Yes, because you need one of these big missiles you put on an F-15, hit that door, get it closed. Once it's closed, hit every truck that goes up there and make it a terror to even think about driving a truck up there. Not only that, Televise it. Televise that anybody that goes near these nuclear facilities, I don't care if you're driving a truck. I don't care if you don't have a gun. You're going to die.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Can I ask a question from Monkey before we go to the next person? Just a short
Yeah, go ahead.
question and answer. Just so for clarification, wouldn't that require the Americans to just be present there militarily indefinitely? Like there would be no end to this. If like this would be just them being present over Iranian airspace indefinitely. Wouldn't that be a problem or no?
I mean, who says we're not doing that now? We're talking about high altitude drones. They don't have a capacity to hit those drones. These drones can be in the air for hours and hours. And, you know, we can play that game. We can absolutely play that game. And this is not ungodly expensive. It's not ungodly manpower because it's just a bunch of drones. Like, this is very much within the budget. I mean, Jeffrey can help me out here, but.
Got it. But so sorry, my question maybe wasn't clear. I mean, the Americans need to be there, like their carrier strike groups need to be there. There needs to be people there present in the region because none of this is going to be done by the air bases in the Arab countries, right? Anything like this for this to continue. That means that the airstrike carrier strike groups needs to be there. Like I'm asking, I don't know. Wouldn't that mean that they would have all of this? Because even if the drones are cheap, they're operationally they needs to be, because all of this will be responded to, obviously. So the Arab, U.S. allies in the region need to be defended. So just because the operation itself is cheap, doesn't mean that the response to the backlash and also everything that needs to remain in the region for this to be continued, wouldn't that mean that that has to be there indefinitely if they're going to just keep an eye on that? And I mean, keeping an eye on that is the easy part, but just constantly responding to any activity there indefinitely, wouldn't that be more complicated?
It'd be easy. It would be easy. It's the same thing we're doing on the strait farther in. It's the exact same thing. When the boats go out, we look at where the boats are, we hit the boats. It's the exact same thing, right? Maybe we wouldn't use choppers. Maybe we would use drones. We have a lot of drones. We have so many drones. These drones can stay in the air a very long time, hours, days. They can stay in the air. We can bring them back, send them back out. Like, this is not, and you have to understand, like, you just do this long enough and it'll send a terror message. You don't have to do it all the time. You have to do it enough so that no one wants to take that job. You make it very public. You do this a week, 2 weeks, no one's going to want to get near it. And the big problem is hitting it once with the big missile. Once you hit it once with the big missile and you keep it up there for a week or 2 weeks, this is not that expensive because you don't have humans up there. You're talking about very high altitude drones. And all they got in the book, launch and have it. You don't have to have big warheads. You have to have many small warheads.
Got it. Thank you. Who's next?
Okay. Kathy is next.
Okay, so based on what Jeffrey explained, it sounds like there are more than one option to take out the nuclear site and Pickaxe Mountain. If that is the case, why haven't we done it yet?
Okay.
Was that a gesture, Jeffrey, trying to respond?
I'd say we didn't need to.
So why didn't the White House report emphasize Pickaxe Mountain since August 2025? So the timeline and context, discovery of Pickaxe Mountain was between 2020 and 2022, and we're doing all this assessment on it. It was not one of the three primary sites that were struck in 2025. That was the main points of contention or concern, because it wasn't fully up to speed, at least to the best of our assessment. The post-strike focus, as Armin correctly pointed out, was after the big strikes. The narrative was emphasized complete obliteration, which in the context of the mullah regime's existing contemporary or traditional approach towards enrichment of vis-a-vis facilities that were in operation. That was very true. They didn't want to sit there and have that messaging probably get muddled with potentially what's coming down the pike, or these are other things. They were looking for a quick, decisive message. And I mean, they didn't lie. They just said, this is what we did. That we destroyed all the mullah regime's traditional approaches towards, or facilities that underwrite the traditional approaches towards enrichment. So the other issues was we were still in the process of doing our intelligence assessment, right? The full scope and depth of pickaxe may not have been fully characterized or prioritized as an active enrichment site at that time. Operational security, we just learned about it in 2020. So we're wanting to sit there and make sure that we're, not trying to signal to the bad guys that we know what they're doing. So they start engaging in strategic deception and denial while we're trying to do, a complete initial assessment of what the Pickaxe Mountain facility was. So there's a lot of different issues there. It wasn't like, it's not deception, it's not lying. It's just, doing assessments on deep underground facilities like that. That's not like a light thing. It's not like just, okay, I can send a bird over, take images, and then get some analysts with their little monocular, what they used to. I mean, that's telling my age, right? Look at, okay, that's a truck, that's a horse with a hat on it. This isn't that. We have things that look at things like that, ground penetrating radar, a couple other things. Sure. I mean, it takes time to do that. AI helps and all that. We're definitely leveraging that. They just found out about Pickaxe between 2020, let's say 2020, right? Not even 2022. You're talking about 5 years, and we got all these other things. And that was during the Biden administration, which was a complete fucking, disaster. But God, they were, juggling all kinds of crazy disasters around the world that were in many ways amplified by the Obama retreads in the Biden administrations and the subsequent, strategic missteps they had with regards to recklessly disengaging from Afghanistan, not deterring Putin invading Ukraine, sucking the mullah regime's dick. I mean, the list is endless. So it's not, you ask why, I would contend those are probably some very significant contributing factors as to why. I will say that, now Pickaxe clearly is being, further established by the regime remnants that it needs to go, at least functionally, while we set our pieces up with, hopefully for me and the Hawks, to eliminate the regime so we don't have to worry about Pickaxe Island, or I keep saying Pickaxe Island. Pickaxe, facility and Pickaxe Mountain. You don't have to worry about it because the bad guys aren't controlling Iran. Iranian people do. Then you can send in people at your leisure to go and clean things out and go, wow, this is what they used, and look at how deep they built this, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. That's why the regime has to die. Period.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Yep, let's go to super chats.
Wait, I had something to say. I had a two. Okay.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yes. Even with everything that was said, I think it's still wrong for President Trump to come out and say that we destroyed all their enrichment facilities, because that was clearly not the case. At the end of the day, he said that, and that was not the case, right? I did some digging into the idea of having drones that just close the entrances all the time. I just wanted to see if that is possible. So here is some reasons why that might not be a good plan. Again, I don't know. I'm just saying that this is what might be, like, you got to take that with a grain of salt, right? So Pickaxe is not at the border where the U.S. can easily peek over. It's located like near Natanz, roughly 220 kilometers south of Tehran, right in the dead center of Iran. So to get there, U.S. drones would have to fly hundreds of miles through one of the most densely layered, air defense. Because remember, air defense, the Islamic Republic air defense is not really that good in taking fighter jets, but they are better at taking out drones. They do have a history of sometimes being able to take out U.S. drones. So that is like, it has to go through all of that. The Islamic Republic has history of drone kills, taking out down U.S. drones, and even though those drones were going through less areas, this is like such a long journey to get to that destination. So there's that, and then we have drones are really good at precise strikes against unarmored targets, but they are not very good against Granite Mountain, even if you're only doing the entrances. So if you look at the entrances, for example, to the missile cities that were being taken, that were being closed, they were closed with missiles, and not bunker buster missiles, but still missiles. They weren't closed down with drones. Drones don't have the payload. So standard MQ-9 Reaper drone carries AGM 114 health, but so that's not. So Hellfire missiles are small, 500-pound precision bombs, but these tunnels are fortified. Even the entrances are fortified. So under the main enriched uranium facility is deep under granite. So that's for the bunker busters. But the entrance, even though it's at surface level, is fortified enough to be able to withstand a drone attack. So a tunnel entrance at Pecac Mountains are heavily reinforced with concrete and steel. A drone strike might destroy a truck outside the door, but it doesn't have the power to collapse the mount to the steel around the tunnel entrance or whatever they use over there. So to actually collapse the tunnel portal, you need heavy bombers carrying massive ordnance, and you cannot keep heavy bombers loitering in hostile airspace 24/7, right? So then, even if a drone managed to temporarily bomb the entrance shut with a lucky strike, it would stop. It wouldn't stop operations inside. We saw, like, even with the missile cities, there was, even though when they closed them, they did. Even the United States, even though they were motivated to keep closing them, we saw that there was still a lot of truck activity right after opening them up. There's also secondary exit. Deep underground facilities are built with multiple entrances. Blocking a couple of them doesn't necessarily seal the bunker. So you would need, you can do it with missiles. As you know, so for example, in the missile cities, during Operation Epic Fury, some of these were were closed so perfectly that everyone inside suffocated and died. That's how good they were. But again, those were with missiles. It wasn't with drones. If it was possible with drones, then they would have done it with drones during Epic Fury, but they did it with missiles. So also there's a logistical exhaustion. Wait, let me see. So let me see. If a drone damages an entrance, the Iranian military can simply send out armored bulldozers to clear the rubble. It takes a few minutes to drop a small drone bomb, but it only takes an afternoon for a heavy machinery to reopen a road. And then, so the logistical exhaustions, to keep a 24/7 staring eye over these facilities, the US would have to constantly rotate drones from bases in the Persian Gulf, like UAE or Qatar. This requires continuous maintenance, massive fuel costs, and constant mid-air refueling for any support aircraft. It is a logistical marathon, and that will severely drain US resources. Again, this might all be wrong. It might be actually easier than what I'm seeing over here. I just wanted to provide an alternative as well. It might be easier. Yeah, Monkey, you want to go for 10 seconds? Go ahead.
Yeah, I never said drones were for the doors. The drones were for the workers. I said low yield stuff for the workers. For the doors, you use the good stuff, right? And just keep it closed by hitting workers. That was a terror campaign, like we've been on belaboring the point of drones, doors, drones, doors, drones, doors. I never said we were going to hit the doors with drones. It was always like I said, one of these huge missiles could go on an F-15, or they could go on an F-35, or they might even use the big B-2. Right? But drones don't work on doors. That's for workers, for causing terror. That's why I brought up the subject we had in the previous show, where people don't even want to work up there. That's the kind of what I was getting at. You might not do it every time. You might do it randomly, strike a worker that goes up there. But I wouldn't use drones for the doors. I'd use big bombs.
Right. But
So,
yeah, I just
so
wanna
just to
wrap
be
up
clear,
the
that was used to try to terrify the Islamic Republic fighters that were using the launchers. So a lot of the launcher operatives were killed to try to terrify them, so that they don't even go to the launchers. That did limit, many. Obviously, it did have some effects, but as you saw, the launchers were still operating, right? So if I was the Islamic Republic, the way that I would solve that is like either you go do your job, or we will kill you. How about that as a traitor? So either go and do your job, and potentially be killed by a drone, or don't go do your job and we will execute you. So, and that would be a guaranteed death. So that would be an easy fix from the Islamic Republic.
I had Kathy and Jeffrey also wanted to reply, but I really want to move on. So please, like 2 sentences each, literally. Kathy, go ahead.
No, I put my. I said in the comments I put my 2 for Monkey, so Monkey got to talk, so I'm good.
Okay, good. Jeffrey.
Yeah, I mean, Sketch just kind of, I was just trying to clear up what Sketch was proposing. He was proposing using bunker buses to close the tunnels, and then have, like, say, C-130s operating at max altitude, or drones armed with Hellfires to perform constant overwatch. And so, I mean, Armin, that definitely would work regarding disruption, and that's been discussed and in many ways done. And so it definitely deters people. The Mullah regime did exactly what Armin said. You can either have 2 choices. You can either choose to do this potential death, or not choose, and we'll kill you. Forgive me, not those assholes. They'll kill them, and that's a certain death. Here's the backlash, though. There's also, if you're looking to fragment the regime, if you have regimes like telling you you're going to work here no matter what, or we shoot you, quite often your executionary element finds ways to retaliate. For instance, Jewish slave workers in underground facilities in Nazi Germany used to do things like pee on the fucking, the gyroscopic mechanism to make sure that V-2 missiles would fail upon launch. That was their way of saying, fuck you. So, I mean, there is that, although Armin's still like, you're both right. You're both half right. Monkey's right, half right, in the sense that this would disrupt Pickaxe, almost assuredly. Armin is right in the sense that the Mullah regime would just go, well, you have 2 choices. You can either go up there, maybe get hit with a Hellfire, or stay here, and they'll shoot you in the face. I'm just saying the added tertiary impact would be, if they do that, that makes people less committed to the Mullah regime, and maybe they just make sure to do a really shitty job.
So just to summarize, I don't think wasting a bunker buster just to close an entrance that could be easily opened makes any sense. The closing the entrances of missile cities while you're in the middle of a military operation makes a lot of sense. For the enrichment uranium facilities, you either have to completely destroy them. Closing the entrances, I don't see that much utility in it. It makes more sense for the missile cities, in my opinion. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. So,
let's do super chats now. And sorry, editor, for the false alarm earlier.
That's okay. Actually, Danny, don't worry about it. We're now using AI to find where to cut. So don't worry about it anymore. So when we upload the transcript is given, and now we put a prompt, and it automatically cuts where it needs to cut. So that's now it's easier than before. So thank you, but thank you. Push-ups. Thank you so much for the super chat. Saying Iranian panelist, what is your favorite Iran history book? Well, I get my history from YouTube, but Noah, you're Iranian. Who else here is Iranian?
I think I'm the only one right now.
No, I'm Iranian too.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yes.
My bad, Kathy. I forgot.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly right now when it comes to books, I'm reading business related books, but with history, I like to watch YouTube videos on double speed when I ever have a history question. I think when it comes to also the visuals, also helps. I like when I'm watching history related stuff. I also have this website called Wondrium. Well, it's actually they renamed it. It's called The Great Courses. They have some academic courses there on history. So that's what I love that. So The Great Courses, I pay monthly for that one, and it has some really interesting university lectures on history related stuff. So that's my source. Thank you, Push-Ups, for the super chat. And then we have Elaine with a super chat saying, question for everyone. Since Britain installed the mullahs with assistance from France and USA, do you think Did the Britons stay behind agents are middling with negotiations to draw out the war? So the motivations of Britain back then and Britain today are different. Both of them were, when it comes to the Islamic Republic, was negative. I don't think it's the same. My understanding is that it's not the same motivation, even though both, back then. So right now, the destructive influence of Britain and their role in keeping the Islamic Republic alive has a lot to do with their voter base. Back then, they had some other calculations, but I don't. So let me see the question. Do you think Britain stay behind agents and are middling with negotiations to draw out the war? Well, no, actually, I think Britain has actually the motivation is motivated to do the opposite, to draw out the war. I think they're actually more interested in de-escalating against the Islamic Republic. They have a lot of interest. They benefit with the Islamic Republic, and there's also a lot of people within the UK's voter base who see this as a war against Islam and a war in favor of Israel. So that's why, I think that's the main reason that they are motivated to push for de-escalation. So I think they're doing the opposite. Do you guys agree? Do you guys agree with this? Britain is interested in de-escalating the war with the Islamic Republic. Yes, so thumbs up. Yeah, I think they're more interested in de-escalation, not drawing out the war. Wait. Somebody saying Lloyd's of London has a financial incentive. Okay. Well, I mean, you know what? While other people are speaking, I'll do some research in what you're talking about, and I'll get back to you after I look into that. Right. So another super chat we have from No Borders Sports is saying, how many all tanker seizures will we see this go around? I have no idea. That's a good question. Anybody want to guess? I have no idea. I don't think it's predictable. I would say more than before, probably. I would say more than before. Things are escalating, so probably just more than what we have seen so far. I don't know if we are going to see more attacks on ships than them being seized over completely by the Islamic Republic. So yeah, I think that the current trend is for the Islamic Republic to just shoot at some ships and basically and potentially killing some crew members like they did recently, and that's the more likely activity that we're going to see. Anyways, thank you for the super chats. And what's the next topic?
Next topic is a sit rep by Jeffrey.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, just a quick sit rep of the U.S. air campaign that occurred over the past 24 hours. So this is based on official CENTCOM statements and all other kinds of, valid open source intelligence, open intelligence sources. So the number of strikes, there was no single official total that was released. Definitely dozens of targets. The main assets used were carrier-based FA-18 Super Hornets, F-35 Lightnings from our carriers, land-based support, possible F-15Es and other assets from regional bases in Jordan and Qatar. Unmanned drones for strikes and ISR, nod to Sketch mentioning drones. Tomahawk capable ships and destroyers with standoff strikes. Precision munitions are munitions used very much. Probably, there's no specific breakdown. I would guess, or I would, bet they were JDAMs and other small diameter bombs and the rest of lower cost munitions over target based munitions. The specific targets that were hit were Bashir, Chabahar, Jask, Konarak, Abu Musa. I don't know why I love saying that one. Bandar Abbas. Target categories again: Mullah regime, remnant coastal defense systems, missile and drone launch and storage sites, maritime naval assets, radar installations. Very much aimed again at degrading offensive capabilities against commercial shipping, and or shaping operations against the Mullah regime remnants. Israel is doing their kind of low, maintenance strikes. It's not large, at least at the time I did the sit rep assessment. Forgive me, guys. I'm getting a lot of that stuff from Canada, and it's making me like, yeah, that's pretty much where it is. We kind of touched on a lot of this sit rep. Force posture is the same. It is both within the Persian Gulf and or the Strait, as well as broadly, say, with heavy assets that would be used in a mass strike. We all kind of touched on President Trump's statements. I would contend that the general overview is that this is shaping operations to provide any number of options for the administration should the Mullah regime remnants decide to continue doing all of their friggly ass Baba Yaka bullshit and want to keep testing this administration. Which, I wish they don't. That said, if they do, and the Hawks get their way, that will be the end of them. Short and sweet.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I don't see any twos. Did you get super chats in the meantime?
I didn't get more super chats, but I was just looking into the previous super chat. What is Lloyd's of London? So the Lloyd's of London apparently. Okay, let me see. During times of geopolitical crisis, such as the recent and ongoing escalations, the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, and the Hormuz Straits and the Black Sea, the maritime insurance industry sees a massive explosion in revenue. Oh, okay. So this is a insurance company. Okay, so I don't think it works like that. That thing, just because an insurance company in the UK makes a lot of money, I don't think that means that they are behind keeping the Islamic Republic alive. I think it's more political in nature. Maybe they're lobbying. I don't know. I don't think so, because unless we see an evidence for this directly, and I think that if there was any evidence, more people would be bringing it up, and this would be like a big news. I think this is like leaning towards conspiracy theories, that just because people see an interest, then they assume that this is being done by them. I do agree that the UK's role when it comes to the Islamic Republic has been negative. I don't see, like, I think the explanation is pretty a lot more straightforward than trying to find people in dark room behind scenes pulling levers to try for financial reasons to keep the Islamic Republic alive. I think they're just appealing to a voter base that unfortunately has is sympathetic to the axis of resistance against Israel and sees this as an attack on poor Muslims or stuff like that, especially given that the population in the UK is becoming more Islamic and the Islamic voter base acts like a voting bloc and therefore will make their influence of their votes significantly higher, right? But and also they're incompetent, right? And they don't, and so there's that. But unless there's a direct evidence, this will be more in the conspiracy theory realm unless we see something more than incentives. Because remember, incentives are not good enough to come up with a theory. Like, for example, if my dad is very rich and if he dies, I get a big inheritance. That doesn't mean that if somebody kills him, then the theory that I killed him would be the automatic theory to go to, even though I did benefit for it. There needs to be something more than incentives. There needs to be evidence. But yeah, if I do see evidence, I would believe in it. Right? Okay. What's the next topic?
Next topic is Houthis strike Saudi Arabia by Noah.
Ooh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So yesterday, the Houthis launched airstrike into Saudi Arabia for the first time in 4 years due to the Saudis and the international recognized government in Yemen conducting a strike on Sana'a Island. They were trying to, that was the plane that was from the regime. So my question is, do we think that this will go out into an all-out war with the Houthis again, like it was years ago, or just limited airstrikes only between the Saudis and the Houthis? Thanks.
So that's a good question. And I think, the Saudis were the last time that the Saudis and the Houthis were in an all-out war. It did last 10 years, didn't it? Like, that was a long war, right? Do I remember correctly? It was like 10 years. Yeah, okay. And the problem with that is, the Saudis would love to be able to destroy the Houthis, but they with their experience shows that they suck at it, right? And they fought them for 10 years and they don't have anything to show for it. And this time now they're getting started in attacking them. And they suck at it. Like, they were very inefficient right from the beginning. You saw that they were using some very expensive missiles just to bomb the runway of an airport. And a lot of people were looking at that and were like, what are you doing? Like, that's not what you use that for. You saw that, Noah? So I think, given the bad experience, I think the Saudis, when they originally went to war with the Houthis, they had a lot of confidence. They thought that they got this because they have a lot of very expensive toys that the Americans have given them. And they were very confident. And if you look at the Saudis, they had the most advanced American weaponry. But then you look at the Houthis, they didn't even have shoes, right? And you're like, wow, look at Saudi Arabia's military, and look at the Houthis. This should be like a walk in the park for them. And then yet after 10 years, you could actually say that the Houthis kind of defeated the Saudis, which is embarrassing, right? And the Saudis have nothing to show for it. The Saudis have a really good talent of wasting money. The only thing that they excel at is wasting money. Nobody could beat them on that. That's the one thing that they have aced. Nobody outcompetes with Saudis when it comes to figuring out how to make just money disappear without much in return. So I don't know. I would want to say maybe it wouldn't have an all-out war between the Houthis and Saudi because of the bad experience that the Saudis had before. But then I remember that the Saudis never learn. So maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe they think that this time is different. What do you think based on everything I said? Because they don't learn. Like for example, here's how I know they don't learn, right? So they had, before they had this line project in Saudi Arabia, the city that they were making, that there was a line, and the whole the giant golden cube project, the neon project. They already had many other cities that they were supposed to build, and it was supposed to be futuristic, and it didn't go anywhere. This wasn't their first time. But they didn't learn from that, and they now they tried it again, and it basically, to no one's surprise, it failed again. So just because it failed before, it doesn't seem like for them it's a learning experience. You know what they're like? They're like a trust fund kid. I think that their incompetence comes from them having access to a lot of money. This is the problem when you have just money gushing out of the ground. And you don't learn things. Like other countries had to, when they built things, they had to deal with limited resources, so they had to do cost management and figure out the most productive way to figure out how things work. But when it comes to the Saudis, you just get up and then you just dig for 5 meters and oil starts pumping out. So it's just like, so you have access to so much money everywhere. I'm exaggerating, by the way, right? That you just like, well, anything that we want, we have the money and we pay for it, right? So that means that you don't learn anything. You don't actually learn how to generate revenue. In the same way, like somebody who ends up becoming a billionaire because they learn how to do a business, their children many times suck at business because they never had the limitation of resources to learn how to be efficient with resources. So that's why Saudis are so bad with figuring things out. Does that answer your question, Noah?
Yeah, it does. I did see the video, by the way, and it looked like they were trying to strike the airplane at first. But yeah, you're right. That's not what you use it for. And even though they have American weapons, they suck at using it. So you're right. They're very incompetent. Thanks, Armin.
So that was actually, they didn't even manage to succeed. So the Houthis, they were on a plane from Tehran coming back to Sana'a, right? And the Saudis realized that, oh my God, these people are bringing some stuff with them. The plane is filled with. So they were coming from Ali Khamenei's funeral back to Yemen. And the Saudis were like, oh, these mother tuckers are coming back with, I don't know what, like money or I don't know what, back to Yemen with support for the Houthis to close the Bab el-Mandeb by the Islamic Republic. And they just bombed the runway of the airport so that the airplane doesn't land. And all it did is the plane went to a different city in Yemen and landed over there. So it didn't even stop them. So I don't even know what the point of that was. And then the Houthis started bombing, responding in Riyadh. So I don't even know what the point of that was. But we'll see. I mean, the only people who could effectively respond against the Houthis are the Americans and the Israelis and maybe other Yemeni people. Other Yemeni, the competing forces in Yemen against the Houthis. But not the Saudis. The Saudis suck at this. Okay.
I see a 2 from Monkey.
Yeah, I would also add that they have some of the same problems that the IRGC had because they don't promote based on performance. They promote based on loyalties and bloodlines. What does that mean? That means that you're not getting your top generals there because they're really good at war. You're getting your top generals there because you know that they won't turn on the royal family or something. They keep deliberately fragmented their forces. The National Guard is completely separate from the army. So the military, they couldn't do joint operations very easily. It's a top-heavy chain of command. They do have bad pilots. Their training standards are very low. They'd abandoned some of their armor because they don't even know how to use it well. They were underestimated the Yemenis. one of the things that happened is that they got this guy, the president Ali Abdullah Saleh, to join with them. What does that mean? Well, they thought they were going to against some ragtag Yemeni groups, but they were going against basically the Houthis inherited the state arsenals, artillery, ballistic missiles, and were highly experienced, battle-hardened fighters who, use the mountains, right? So they have an over-reliance on air power, right? Like you use air power a lot, that's great, but eventually you have to go down to the ground. So that's a problem. They also have the UAE backing something called the Houthis have some opposition from the Southern Transitional Council. Then these guys are funded by the United Arab Emirates. I don't know why they're there, but they should have worked together and coordinated instead of having these competitive views. I don't understand that part too well, but the structure of the military is a problem.
So here's a dumb thing that the Saudis are doing, so there's two groups. The Saudis are, so there's basically three groups that are there are more, but the ones that we're talking about, we have the Houthis, we have the Southern Independence Separatist groups backed by the UAE, and then we have the official internationally recognized government of Yemen backed by Saudi Arabia and United States and stuff like that, right? So the problem with the Saudi, the most efficient thing you could do, given that both the UAE and Saudis don't have a ground force to fight against the Houthis, they should just support somebody already there that is anti the Houthis. They know how to fight there. But it's interesting because the UAE and the Saudis have a history of cooperation with each other. I mean, these days they seem to be hating each other. But even with the history of cooperation with each other here, they're backing different groups. This is helping the Houthis because you're backing two different competing groups that are against each other. So even when it comes to the right strategy of backing a group against the Houthis on the ground, they couldn't even get that right. Instead of getting their act together and basically backing one group against the Houthis, they're backing two different groups against the Houthis.
Okay, that's it for responses on this topic. Let's go on to super chats.
Okay, and all right, so we got one super chat by I'm your Sensi X. Okay, thank you so much for that. It's for the super chat. I don't know if I'm reading it. I don't know. Thank you so much for the super chat saying, do you think IRGC will put Iranian soldiers on ships trying to escape the blockade to protect it from the U.S. Army? Do you think IRGC will put Iranian soldiers on ships trying to escape the blockade to protect them from the U.S. Army? Oh, I don't know how that would protect the ships. Putting soldiers on the ships like that, what would they do? What would that do? So, for example, when a U.S. destroyer, when a U.S. Navy ship comes to one of the ships that is trying to escape through the blockade, what the U.S. ship does is that they usually target the engine room, and they bomb the engine room, and it stops the ship. So, maybe after they stop the ship, they want to, if the American soldiers want to board the ship, then the soldiers on the ship will be able to maybe push back against that. But other than that, if they're not trying to do that, then if it's filled with U.S. With soldiers of the Islamic Republic, then that would give more reason for the Americans to go more heavy on attacking the ship. If they see a lot of hostile actors, and again, if the soldiers are on there, they're not going to be able to do anything when they're being shot at with a missile or a heavy gun from far away, right? Let me see, a Monkey or Jeffrey, do you agree with that? Putting soldiers on the ships trying to go through the blockade is not going to stop the Americans from doing what they need to do to stop the ships, right?
Yeah, then you're just stuck on a ship that can't move.
Yes. Yeah, actually, that would be helpful for the Americans. They're like, okay, now we got more of your soldiers stranded in the middle of nowhere because we just destroyed your engine room. There you go. And thank you for the super chat. All right, what's the next topic?
Next topic is AI, America, and Agriculture by Shauna.
All right. So I was really interested in this drought that's happening, and I went down a whole rabbit hole and it circled back to some of the topics we've been talking about. Essentially, what the administration is doing is fixing our urban rural divide via infrastructure building and actually private public partnerships. Credit to Jose. He brought this up I think it was a couple weeks ago. He brought this up recently that Bill Gates and Microsoft are buying up agricultural land to stop China from buying it. Now, it's a little bit interesting though, because at least in my state, what's happening is they're actually buying up retired orchards and turning them into nuclear data centers. And but here's what's interesting is they're also building schools there, and they're building their own future employee base by funding scholarships. And so that's what was going on in my state. That was easy to track. But I wanted to see if that was taking place in other places throughout the country. Absolutely, it is. So there is basically 6 key industries and regional target zones that the administration is rebuilding. One is the automated textiles in the Southeast, which is mostly in the Carolinas and Georgia. The second one is modernizing livestock. So we want to keep our cattlers happy down in Texas. We love our cattlers, but we need to have some products that are low water, and sheep is a really great new industry to build. So it's scaling into the expanded domestic sheep industry, and that's going to be in the high plains. And then there's domestic seafood processing. This is really interesting to me. That's going to be on the West Coast and the Alaska ports, as well as parts of Florida. But they're actually using robotics so that they can undercut Chinese workers. So they're using like very specific like arm. I don't really understand it because I don't understand robots. They're using robotics. And then there's medical processing and biomanufacturing in the Great Lakes and the Rust Belt. So he is actually doing something incredible because he's actually merging the like eco-friendly desires of the kind of liberal left and the nationalist sort of blue collar like rebuilding by repurposing some of these old buildings. So the reason he's doing it there is he's taking these old hubs that were like used to be like car manufacturing and things like that, because they have the kind of energy infrastructure for it. He's basically using private public partnerships, is rebuilding them and repairing them to be used for biomanufacturing and medical processing. And then nuclear energy revival in the Southwest predominantly. And that's happening in a few places, but that's where the biggest hub is, according to AI. And then advanced tech and AI computing in the Intermountain West. The Intermountain West would be places like Utah, Wyoming, Colorado. So that is my quick and dirty rundown. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that I found really fascinating, but I think everybody else would find really boring because, I'm not going to hold you all captive to my hyper focus, but yeah.
I'll just use this opportunity to say something about the superiority of the US model to the Chinese model when it comes to dealing with things, right? Because private-public partnerships are a great way to get the government involved without having a command top-down government, middling that slows everything down. Because the problem with government getting involved and running things is that they're not profit. You're not motivated by profit, and that's why they're not going to try to reduce cost and make things more efficient in a way that a private company is. The whole point of creating public-private partnerships is to be able to get the government in boosting certain things that require more boosting, but keep the profit motive and the private sector's efficiency still involved in making sure things get done right. and not get the government basically managing things and getting the private sector managing it. So that's a very efficient way. Again, when it comes to the best solutions to all of this, using AI for agriculture, using robotics for agriculture, you always assume that the best solution cannot be determined by armchair philosophers thinking about things, thinking like, oh, wouldn't that be a good idea? You have no idea, right? Only if people buy it, it's a good idea, and you will never know if there's demand for it unless you test it, unless you put it out there and see if there's demand for it. And this is the weakness of the Chinese model. A lot of people will keep getting impressed by what China is doing, because given the level of government involvement, they're going to be able to move resources faster at a much higher level and make decisions with less accountability and a lot less bureaucracy and a lot less accountability. So things will move faster, things will be done faster, but it will not be as good of a result as the slower American version. On the American side, decisions will be made slower, but they will be made right. So short term, everything China will be doing when it comes to solar panel, AI, robotics, is going to look so impressive. It's going to look big. It's going to look fast. It's going to look flashy. It's going to look very impressive. And people are going to, every time people are going to look at it and going to like, oh, China is winning it. United States is losing it. This is basically the difference between somebody who's running is millions of dollars in debt and running on credit cards, driving a very expensive car, living in a big house, and thinking like, oh my God, this person has it made. Look at this lifestyle, compared to somebody that has a much more simple lifestyle because the guy is putting the money back into his business instead of paying himself. And every time he's paying himself, he's putting a lot of it into, ETFs and investing it. And when his business is making millions of dollars, instead of paying himself and increasing the size of his house and buying a car, is just putting the money back in the business to grow. So you look at their lifestyle, you think like the other guy with the Lamborghini is probably doing better, but nope, the other guy that is growing slowly is actually doing a lot better. And that's the difference between America and China right now.
Okay, I have some twos. Let's go to Shauna first.
Yeah, so the other thing too that's really interesting about this that I found is the cultural element of America, because one of the things that has happened, this was more regional to me, but on the east side of the mountains, our states are divided. There's a huge mountain between Washington and Oregon, or not on each side of Washington and Oregon. Anyway, the east side of the mountains, they were like, there was communities who were threatening to basically secede from the states. They were like, there was 13, and that has been going on for years. And the reason for that is because the west side has all of the money, but the east side grows all of the food, and the west side is largely urban and has been really twatty, I'll be honest. I live on the west side. They've been kind of assholes. I'm going to be real honest. And so the east side, they don't want to be told that they're bigots because they can't make any profit, because they don't have a market for their agricultural surplus, which is basically what's been happening for the last 20 years. But what's really interesting about this is because the liberals and the other and the tech elites kind of realized, okay, we can't have all of this internal division is literally causing economic downturn and cutting into our profits. They have basically gotten on board with a lot of Trump's stuff. It's just happening on local levels, and it's happening via profit motives, and so it's not being seen. It took me a long time to be there's a dot here and I'm not connecting them, but I finally figured out what was going on. So yeah, that's the other thing too, is America can adjust when it starts to see too much internal fracturing.
All right, guys, we're running out of time, so everybody else can keep it short, please.
Shut up.
Yeah, let's go for maybe 30 seconds each. So Monkey, go next.
Yes, one thing I wanted to point out is that this dispels the myth that we need endless illegal workers so that we have a working class that has less rights and are undocumented. Because if we have robots that can do this job at a rate that's so low that it's undercutting China, then this myth of us needing this population here because of the demographics, because of the workers, that turns itself into a myth. You don't need these people here, because if it's undercutting China, that means that it costs less than it does to pay a regular immigrant worker. A regular immigrant worker in the United States makes a lot more money than the people in China make. Like, that's just a fact. So when you switching to robotics, it may be front heavy. You may have an initial investment that's a little higher, but over the long term, it's a lot more savings, a lot more efficient, and it frees up labor to do other things and find maybe higher paying jobs and things that were robots still can't do that. So I just want to say, we don't need all these illegal immigrants to do these jobs. We got robots.
Okay. Thank you, Monkey. Let's go to Jose next. Jose?
Yeah. 2 quick points. You guys know that everything that Bill Gates touches turns into gold. Well, his current project is with the fishing industry or the meat industry. He's trying to come up with he's trying to work on a replacement for tofu. Something that actually tastes good and is a lot more nutritious. That's his goal right now. So keep an eye out for that. Second, Shauna, you missed an opportunity there. The textile industry returning to the United States from China is what's happening in Georgia. Yes, robotics are being used, but I can tell you right now, my mother and all my aunts worked in the textile industry here in Florida, and they all had to learn brand new skills when one after another of those companies shut down. So it's a return of an industry that was once very predominant all over the East Coast and Midwest, and it's now slowly returning. Robotic, we'll see how good the robotics are, because China World Factories went robotics. They fired all their employees, and then their employees were the number one customers. They didn't buy their products. So those robots are sitting in trash heaps all over China.
Okay, I believe that's all the twos on this topic. So do we have super chats?
No super chats, but what is Kat's topic?
She put IRGC plan ? If you want to elaborate on what that is.
So I have 2 issues, which I would love to hear, like, the opinions of the people here about it. First is, you know how before an attack, the US is destroying defense systems and radars to make the attack possible and effective? Well, the IRGC is attacking Jordan heavily in the last week. And I wonder if it's to destroy defense systems and radars to make way to a bigger attack on Israel. And I would love to hear, the specific that I would love to hear is what other explanations could it have, like, to have all of a sudden this focus on Jordan, which is weird. And my second point is, I watched yesterday a footage from Kuwait of, like, repeated attacks, successful attacks on American bases. And to my surprise, the crowd that was filming was cheering, like seriously cheering. And I was wondering if someone can tell me what is going through their minds. Do they not want the Americans there? What's happening in their minds there? Why are they cheering, you know?
Yeah, I mean, for the second one, yes, that's probably anti-Americans celebrating. The Jordanian population is so different from the heads of state in Jordan right now. It's a very anti-Israeli, anti-American it has a huge population of anti-Americans, anti-Israeli, pro-Palestinian populace. It's a you know how we have a huge gap between Iranian people and their regime. We have something similar in Jordan, but the opposite. so the Jordanian state is pretty pro-American, and the people there are extremely anti-Israeli and anti-American. If the American support stops for the Jordanian government, I wouldn't be surprised if the king and queen's head will be on spikes the day after. Like, I mean, it's honestly a fake country that is just being held up as a country by the United States. It's not, and that situation there is like very, very unstable. That's why so many Arabs there in the region consider Jordan just to be a U.S. proxy that will not be able to maintain itself unless the United States was supporting it. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if people in Jordan were happy that U.S. bases were being attacked. Kat, you wanted to say something? Yes.
Yeah, just to make it clear, the cheers that I saw were in Kuwait.
Oh, in Kuwait, I wouldn't understand. In Jordan, I wouldn't understand. Yeah.
It's weird in Kuwait, right?
Yes, weird in Kuwait. In Kuwait is like, I mean, the thing is though, it's not like it's non-existent, right? Oh, here's another thing, Kat. Always keep in mind that it might just be an excitement of seeing explosion as well. Like there are were these young people? Or did they sound young?
No, it was regular men. I hope it wasn't like representative. It really surprised me, like disgusted
I
me.
mean, sometimes people just like get very excited seeing something that they don't usually see every day. Like, you know, sometimes it's just that. But I don't know. I mean, Kuwait would be less like that, but still there are people there in Kuwait who are anti-American. So yeah, I hope so. I hope also that it's not representative of people in Kuwait. I mean, Kuwaitis that especially need to be very grateful to the Americans, and I assume that more of them should be. Their entire country was saved by the United States from an Iraqi invasion by Saddam, right? I mean, Kuwait is also a country that only exists because the United States. And Kuwait is also a country that without the United States would be attacked by Iraq, no matter who's in charge. Like maybe not no matter who's in charge, but if United States basically stops supporting Iraq, stops completely being in that region, at one point the Iraqi government will go towards something that will want to invade and take over Kuwait because of how unstable Iraqi's geographical situation is, with having a tiny bit of land only that is adjacent to the Persian Gulf, which is really scary for Iraq that their access to the Persian Gulf is that small. So taking over Kuwait is always going to be in the strategic interest of Iraq, and that's why Kuwait, being a country, is always dependent on United States being there and supporting it to some extent, right? So the Kuwaitis need to be grateful to United States, and I'm pretty sure, given that they were saved by United States, most people in Kuwait, I'm assuming that they're grateful to the Americans. We saw, for example, like just to defend the Kuwaitis, remember where the American pilots were wrongfully shot down by Kuwaiti air defense, right? When they landed in Kuwait, the civilians there were very friendly to the Americans, right? And they went there and they helped them. They were nice to them. They gave them a lift. They put them in the back of their truck and they took them to the hospital. So that was a good example of how Kuwaitis view the Americans. I mean, it's not nice that they shut down two American planes, but it's nice that they treated the pilots well when they landed there. So that's nice. Those were average civilians in Kuwait, right? So with regards to why are they hitting Jordan? I mean, I don't know if you're right. Your theory is correct that they're getting prepared to attack Israel, because like that would be a huge win for Israel. Like Israel is like hoping that the Islamic Republic is foolish enough right now to do anything against Israel, because they're sitting on the sidelines trying to find an excuse to get in, and the Americans are telling them, nope, stay back. But if they do get attacked by the Islamic Republic, then nobody could tell them to stay back. So they're hoping for something. They're hoping the Islamic Republic is stupid enough to shoot at them with anything so that they could come in and get involved in taking they have a big target list that they need to go through, and they're just looking for an excuse. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but also Like, yeah, Israel is want them to attack, but maybe not without the full capacity of like shooting down their cluster ballistic missiles. And also, I was specifically wondering, why are they focusing on Jordan? Does it have any, like, anyone have any guess why Jordan only
Yeah.
in the last week and a half?
Okay, so Jordan is a legitimate target in the eyes of the Islamic Republic, because they have U.S. air bases and they're a U.S. ally, and also so they're basically an extension of the Imperial Swiss. But why specifically the past 2 days they're attacking Jordan? I'm just going to give you a guess, I don't know. Maybe it's because of other options being less viable right now, right? So maybe it's just by the process of elimination. Maybe the other options have paid the Islamic Republic to stop attacking them, so they're just looking around and see who to attack next, and Jordan is the best, like the one remaining right now. Because, for example, we know that for Saudi Arabia and the UAE, they started attacking them less because they made a deal, like the UAE and Saudi Arabia made a deal with the Islamic Republic. That's why after that they're starting to head, because originally they were focusing a lot on the UAE, and then the UAE made a deal with the Islamic Republic, and then after that they started focusing on Bahrain and Kuwait. So maybe, I'm just guessing, maybe Bahrain and Kuwait are like, okay, well, here's a few $1 billion, please stop hitting us as well. And now the Islamic Republic are like looking around like, okay, like who do I hit now? Like I need to hit somebody. So now they're going after Jordan. Could it be that?
Yeah, the bully of the neighborhood is like scrambling to find whoever they can still, who is the weakest child they can hit. That's a possibility, definitely. Oh, we found a country, Jordan.
Like, I'm running out of options. Like everyone's paying me. Who should I hit next? Yes. By the way,
maybe
one thing that is interesting is that Qatar is now refusing to release funds of the Islamic Republic because they got hit. I don't know how long they're going to keep that up, but Qatar is upset. So the frozen funds that they were supposed to release, Qatar is now coming out saying, you know what, we're not going to release them. But we'll see if they keep that up, because Qatar is terrified of the Islamic Republic. So one reason why they always at the end of the day do what the Islamic Republic wants is because they don't want to get the UAE treatment. I saw some twos in the chat. Anybody want to respond?
Yes, Monkey wanted to respond.
Yes, like if you look at our unified air defense, we have radars, early radar systems, we have interceptors. So like there is a possibility that they are testing the defenses in Jordan to see how to get past them over to Israel. Like if you know that's where you might get stopped, you might attack there just to see how they react, so you can better plan on how to get over them. You understand what I mean?
You're asking me?
Anyone really, but we have Patriot Pack 3, CRAM systems, the drone vulnerability. Like that's what I would point out. Maybe Jeffrey knows. Like because of the defense packages we have there, if you want to get over it, you should attack it first to see how it reacts, and then see if you can counter that reaction and bypass it. Because it's one thing to attack Jordan, it's another thing to test it to see if you can get over it.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. Yeah.
Okay, I thought that might be like an inkling into maybe this is what the real question is here. And I think that would be something to be looked at. Like if they're trying to get over, they would hit it first to see how it reacts and then test, okay, how can I get over it?
So here I checked with AI to see what AI thinks. Let me know what you think, Katie. So AI is saying Jordan is uniquely targeted right now because unlike the other Arab nations, it actively shoots down Iranian missiles and allows the US to launch offensive airstrikes from its territory. Okay, this active military involvement combined with its highly vulnerable domestic political landscape makes Jordan the primary target for Iran's regional retaliation right now. So are a lot of the attacks right now coming at the Islamic Republic from Jordanian bases? Because like Saudi Arabia and Qatar refuse to allow the US bases be used against the Islamic Republic for such operations, but Jordan allows it. So maybe that's the reason.
And by the way, yesterday the Iron Dome systems from Israel were helping to intercept some of those Jordanian missiles. They hit them with at least 15 yesterday night. Like, and I don't know, no other countries is shooting down. Maybe on the way to Israel. That's what it means.
Well, they're not in the way.
Oh yeah.
They're not in the
Yeah,
path.
yeah. I think it's a good point. It's a good point. They are helping, like at least facilitating, like the shooting down systems. The air defense systems. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Thanks.
let me see. Do we are Jordanian bases right now being used against the Islamic Republic in the current operations that are happening right now? Because I want to see, because we know that other Arab countries.
Only shooting down. Oh, wait. Sorry. No, they are used. I saw like at least a couple of times tankers lived from there, but mostly the Q9, I think, Q8.
Yep.
What's it called?
So
Those high altitude.
Jordanian bases like Al Zarak and Prince Hassan are actively being used by the United States to launch offensive airstrikes and intelligence gathering drones missions directly against Iran. It's saying, means the Islamic Republic. Because of this active military complicity, the Iranian army, again, the Islamic Republic army, has unleashed. So unlike a lot of these Arab countries that refuse to allow the United States to use their bases, Jordan does allow it. So that could be also a major difference right now. And right now, a lot of the targets that are being, some of the targets in Iran are not just coming from the naval assets that the United States has around the Persian Gulf. Some of it is coming from Jordan. So that's maybe why they're going after them.
Okay, Armin Monkey wants to say one sentence, and then you have to go, Armin.
Okay, thank you.
Iraq is also in the way, but if Iraq is getting closer to US, they might also be able to shoot down missiles on the way.
So, but here's the thing, Monkey, the Iraq probably wouldn't be interested in doing that because Iraq is so tired of having its land be used by foreign actors. So it's going to go for a policy like, hey, everybody stay out of here. And just only business. We're open for business and nothing else. So Iraq is probably gonna. So here's the thing: in Iraq, the public is divided. By some people say kick the Americans out. Some people are saying kick the Islamic Republic out. Right. The only way to get support for kicking the Islamic Republic out is if Ali, the new Prime Minister of Iraq, Ali Zaidi, says like, look, guys. Both the Iranian regime, both the Islamic Republic and the Americans are going to leave militarily. United States will only be here for investment purposes. That's what he's pushing for, right? So the last thing that the Iraqi government would be interested in doing right now is getting involved in wars. They're trying to.
That doesn't mean they're going to allow rockets to run over them. They would buy their own self-defense missiles and say, "Hey, we're not allowing anybody to shoot over us."
True. That's a good point. That would be a way to. I do think the Islamic Republic will see that as them getting involved in war with them, and then they use that as then. Remember, there's also a lot of armed forces in Iraq, and the Islamic Republic continues to bomb the Kurdistan region of Iraq all the time, and they use these excuses. So. And the Islamic Republic says like, yeah, the missiles were not you were not the target. You taking them down means that you're at war with us. So that's something that might want the Iraqi government not to do that. Well, you're right though. What you're saying is right. We'll see. And Kat, you wanted to say something, and then keep it.
Yeah, and Iraq is much more complicated to the Iranian regime because they have plans for them. They try to keep, they try to make stuff with them. They have the border. They would not attack as easily to Iraq, towards Iraq, than they would to Jordan. Like what do they have to lose in Jordan? You know.
Right. Yes. Okay. So, guys, I need to go. Let me stop the recording. Thank you for your patience. And, guys, the next live stream starts in 30 minutes on Liberty Politics YouTube channel and Ali's YouTube channel. With there's some serious new updates regarding the current military operations between the Islamic Republic and United States. So, Ali has the best summary of all of that and the most recent statements regarding that from all sides. So just make sure that on Liberty Politics you hit the bell notification, so every time we go live, you see it. And I'll see you guys in half an hour over
Don't
there.
forget the
And
monkey.
yes, the monkey. Don't forget to subscribe to Monkey as well. All right, guys. I'll see you guys soon. And then until then, I'm Israel Chai, Slava Ukrainie, Cuba Libre, Long Live America, Javicha, Payande, Iran. Mwah. See you guys soon.
We actually got through the list.